KJ and her books, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing my February wrap up. I thought I would get in a little bit quicker than I did with my January wrap up because I don't think I filmed, let alone uploaded a video until like the middle of February for my wrap up. So yeah, trying to do a little bit quicker here. I had read all of these books on the Bookly app, and this is not sponsored. I just really love this app. But I had previously used Bookly for some books sporadically, but for the whole month of February, I set myself a challenge to read each and every one of these books through Bookly, and it worked out to be a really good idea because it's an awesome way to track my reading progress, and it just helps with making sure that I get some reading done. And when I go back and see my progress, I know that even if it feels like I've only read a certain amount of pages, I can look back and the infographic shows me that I did do as well, like I did do better than I thought I did. So it's definitely a very handy app to have, and I highly recommend it. So with this little breakdown I have for this wrap up, I read a total of 6 books in the month of February, which equated to about 2002 pages. My longest book was about 615 pages, and my shortest one was about 42-ish. All right, let's get into it. So as I'm going through each one of these books, I will put up a little infographic and sort of give you a description of how this reading tracker works and how it was able to track my progress and what parts it tracked, if that makes sense. So anyway, you'll get the gist of it as we go through. But anyway, so the first book I read in the month of February was Heart of the Moors by Holly Black. Essentially, this book is from the Maleficent live action film, which is like an origin story that was done of Sleeping Beauty, and it follows Maleficent and how she became who she is now and how she became that villain, and there's a whole lot of stuff in that movie. I originally did not like the movie, but reading this has actually made me want to watch the first one again and watch the second one. So this particular book follows our main character Aurora, and it goes on from the first movie where she is now the ruler of the kingdom, and she's trying to bring together both the human kingdom and the fairy kingdom, which proves a very difficult task when she's trying to work out where love fits into her life and working out who she can trust and who she can't. So I'll pop my little infographic in here now so that you guys can see. This is the infographic for Heart of the Moors. As you can see with the star rating, it says I've given it 3 stars, which yes is true, but I ended up giving it 3.5 because they don't do half stars. But I gave it 3.5 stars anyway. As you can see, I read 320 pages. My total reading time for this book was 2 hours and 6 minutes, and my reading speed was 133.5 pages per hour. The most pages I read in a day was 281, and the most minutes I read in a day was 126. The next book that I read in the month of February was Obsidian by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the 3rd and final book in the Illuminae Files series. It took me forever to finally get around to reading this and finishing this trilogy, and I'm so glad I did. I'm sad that I finished it, but also happy that I've finally come to that conclusion and I know what's happened with all of these characters, and it's just amazing. So I can't really tell you much about this particular book, but basically the Illuminae Files, this trilogy is set out in a way that's not the usual book format. It's actually set out in like files and emails and surveillance footage and things like that. So it's actually like the Illuminae Files. It's not just a novel. It's files that's compiled together to make a story, and it's really awesome. It's a very well done trilogy. It's a sci-fi trilogy, and there's just so much that goes on in each of these books. So each of these books we follow different characters. So there's 2 different main characters in each 3 books, and obviously at the end they sort of all come together, but it's really cool that they have all these different stories and they're all heroes in their own way, and they're all facing some sort of challenge. And yeah, it's a really interesting trilogy. So there's a particular planet that has been attacked by this other government and a whole lot of stuff goes down with one of the ships trying to evacuate, and it's really difficult to explain without giving away spoilers, but basically, yeah, it's like a rebellion kind of sci-fi trilogy, but it's really, really interesting, and I highly recommend it if you like reading YA sci-fi. So as you can see, I gave this one 4 stars. It was a total of 615 pages that I read. It took me 5 hours and 49 minutes to make my way through it. My reading speed was 105.4 pages per hour. The most pages that I read in a day was 274, and the most minutes I read in a day was 118. The next one that I read in the month of February was Black Ice by Becca Fitzpatrick. This turned out to be very different to what I expected. It started off really, really promising, and then it just fell flat, and I put a review as well, so I'll link that above. But yeah, it was fairly disappointing, unfortunately. It was actually my least favorite book of the month, because it did have a lot of negative reviews on Goodreads, but I went into it wanting to read it for myself and know what it was going to be like for myself without having to judge what other people have said. But yeah, it started off really good, and then it just went super weird. So if you have a look at my review, it's, yeah, me just ranting about what I think of this book. But it's pretty much like advertised as a YA thriller, and our main character goes on a holiday with her best friend, partly to try and impress her ex-boyfriend, and then they end up getting lost and stranded and have to seek help, and the people they seek help with are actually not who they expected, and they end up in a dangerous situation and in a lot of trouble. So it's a very interesting read, but towards the end it just got weird. Onto the infographic for this one. So this book was 392 pages long. I read it for 4 hours and 13 minutes. My reading speed was 93 pages per hour. The most pages I read in a day was 112, and the most minutes read in a day was 79. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The next one that I read was Let It Go, A Twisted Tale by Jen Kalanita. And this was another one that was given to me by Scholastic Publishing to read and review, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. I am a huge fan of Frozen. I absolutely love it. The second one just was 10 times better than the first, and this one really helped me get through that little mourning period after I'd watched the second Frozen movie way too much than I probably should have, and I needed something to help me with that Frozen addiction, so this one was perfect. This is pretty much like the first movie if Elsa and Anna hadn't actually lived together. They had actually been separated, and Elsa was raised to look after the kingdom without knowing of anything about her powers, without knowing that she has a sister, nothing like that. So yeah, it's pretty much as if they were separated and they have to come together to bring back the kingdom. And there's a lot of stuff that's very similar to the movie, and by similar I mean like exactly the same sort of dialogue as the movie, but I don't mind that because I love Frozen. So it wasn't a big issue, but it was sort of distracting sometimes because I wanted something a little bit different. But again, I didn't mind it. It was still a fantastic book. My first Twisted Tale read as well, so I really enjoyed it. Alright, and on to the infographic for Let It Go, A Twisted Tale. Again, with this one, I actually gave it 3.5 stars rather than just a simple 3. I read a total of 313 pages with it. It took me 2 hours and 45 minutes. My reading speed was 113.2 pages per hour. The most pages I read in a day was 108, and the most minutes read in a day was 49. The next one that I read was actually sort of a spontaneous read. I completely forgot that I actually owned it. And that is The Pied Piper of Hamelin by Robert Browning. Now, as you can see, you can't even see this cover really clearly because it's so old. It is actually from 1912. Like, I don't know if you can actually see that down the bottom, but it's 1912 this book is from. And I think I got this in a secondhand bookshop like ages ago, and I completely forgot I had it until I was cleaning my bookshelves and found it hidden amongst some books and just was so surprised. So I thought, you know what, I haven't read The Pied Piper before, I'm going to read this. And it has some beautiful illustrations, like nice and simple, but I still enjoy them nonetheless. It's definitely a dark story. Like it's obviously poetry, but it's definitely dark. But I can see why the Pied Piper did what he did by luring the children. I don't mean to say that that's what you should do anytime someone betrays you, but I can understand where he was coming from. So I feel like most of you already know what the story of the Pied Piper is, but it's basically this guy comes to a town that's just been riddled with rats, and he says, yes guys, I can actually help you get rid of them. And they're like, okay, cool, this is awesome. We'll give you $1,000 or however much it was that they were going to give him, but we'll give you this amount of money for getting rid of the rats for us. So he's like, fair deal, I'll go and get rid of these rats. So he does, he plays them a little tune, they go into the water, they drown, all good. But then when he goes back to collect the money, the people are like, ha, what money? Like, whatever, you got rid of the rats, you can go home now. Like, you did what we asked you to. No one said we had to give you money. Basically, they betrayed him, and he was like, you know what? I'm gonna get you back by luring all your kids and putting them where you'll never find them. So that was a dark little turn for this story, but yeah, he basically punishes the people of this town by taking all of their children away, which I understand. I don't mean it's right, but I understand. Moving on. Onto the infographic for the Pied Piper of Hamelin. We will scroll down. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It was 42 pages long. It took me 7 minutes to read it. My reading speed was 323 pages per hour, which is ridiculous because that doesn't make any sense. But, you know, it only took me 7 minutes, so it doesn't really matter. My most pages read in a day was obviously 42, and the most minutes read in a day was 7, of course. So that was my shortest book for the month. And my 6th and final book for the month of February was Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I don't understand why it's taken me so long to start this flippin' series. Like, I read Six of Crows last year, I think it was, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The writing was amazing, the story was amazing. I fell in love with all of the characters. It was brilliant. And my friend actually recently lent me the 3 books in this trilogy, and I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go. She told me it was a really quick and easy read because she flew through them like one after the other, and I was like, yeah, cool, I'll give them a go. And oh my god, I literally finished this last night, and I really just want to pick up the second one now because it was awesome. It was not what I expected, but it was just well done, and it was definitely my favorite book for the month of February as well. It was just a lot of fun, and I missed getting immersed in something like this because it's just so quick and fast paced and leaves you on the edge of your seat with some parts. But this world, this Grishaverse, is amazing and so unique and wonderful, and I just love the magic system. I love the characters. I love the story. Like, she just really knows how to write a good book. So our main character, Alina, discovers that she is a sun summoner, which means she essentially has the power to summon light. And the character of the Darkling, who is like one of the most powerful Grishas in this world, he takes her in. He tells her that they need her help to be able to bring peace back into their kingdom again, because if they have her magic, it's powerful enough to destroy whatever needs destroying to bring back the peace. And she ends up being entwined in this world of royalty and magic and beauty and riches, and it's all just amazing. And I really enjoyed this. It was so different to what I expected. There was a lot of suspense and romance and emotion, and I just missed reading a classic YA story like this. It was awesome. I really enjoyed it. So for the infographic for Shadow and Bone, let's just go down to there. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was definitely my favorite book of the month. I read a total of 320 pages with it. It took me 4 hours and 8 minutes to get through it. My reading speed was 77.3 pages per hour. The most pages I read in a day was 160, and the most minutes read in a day was 118. So I think I'm pretty happy with the books that I read in the month of February. I look forward to seeing what March brings me. I feel like I've been doing really well with my reading challenge. Touch wood, I don't want it to go back to how it was last year, where I was just absolutely stressful. But yeah, I'm pretty proud of how much I read, what I read. It was awesome. I had a very enjoyable reading month. There wasn't any books that I was like, oh my god, I want to DNF you. So I'm pretty happy with that. Well, that's it for my wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if you've read any of these books at all, and also let me know what books you read in the month of February as well, if you'd like. Don't forget to go and check out my Instagram and Twitter and all that jazz, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and you know the drill. But yes, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you in the next video.